Oh my god, when I was a kid, one of my favorite things to do was watch cinematic trailers for upcoming or already out video games, just because it felt like I was watching a mini short film while also knowing that when I get the game of said cinematic trailer, it'd be good, right? I mean, what kind of game studio would spend thousands of dollars on a cinematic hit piece for their game if it was going to be awful? Well, that seems to be the case now. Recently, I've noticed that a lot of people these past few years have been talking about cinematic game trailers and how they're just fed up with it. They're done with being presented something cool and amazing that's supposed to be sort of a concept of what the actual game will feel like, only to be brought with a huge jump of disappointment, feeling lied to, and just kind of having this untrust for new games that get presented with the cinematic trailers first before getting actual gameplay footage. And even with gameplay footage trailers, there have been dozens of cases where the footage is actually manipulated and edited to look better than the actual game by adding things that aren't in the actual game product. But this wasn't always the case. In fact, there was actually a time where people were fine seeing cinematic trailers and were actually kind of excited that the game they were looking forward to was getting this type of trailer, because it was kind of like watching a mini short film on the game while also knowing that at the same time that the guy, that guy in the trailer was going to be you when you played this game. So what happened? Well, a lot. Now, cinematic game trailers are a vital part of video game marketing designed to captivate audience and generate excitement for the upcoming title. Unlike gameplay trailers that emphasize mechanics and interactivity, cinematic trailers focus on storytelling, emotion, engagement, and setting the tone for the game. Over the years, these trailers have evolved into more sophisticated, immersive, and emotionally resonant showcases, often blurring the line between real-life rendering and pre-animated visuals. This discussion explores the purpose, impact, and evolution of cinematic game trailers. Cinematic trailers serve multiple roles in the game marketing, with their primary objective is to build anticipation and excitement. They provide a snapshot of the game's narrative, atmosphere, and the visual style, while also often withholding specific gameplay details to create intrigue. Cinematic trailers allow developers to condense key plot elements into the compelling sequence, introducing characters, conflicts, and emotional stakes that draw viewers in. Another critical role of the cinematic trailers is establishing the game's tone. Whether the game is gritty and intense, whimsical and lighthearted, or epic and adventurous, the trailer communicates this to the audience through music, voice acting, and visual design. Cinematic trailers are celebrated for their high-quality animations and breathtaking visuals. This attention to detail helps communicate personality and motivation, drawing the audience into the game's world. For instance, cinematic trailers like The Last of Us 2 and my personal favorite Uncharted 4: The Thief's End emphasizes their characters' emotional depths, making their struggles to resonate even before the game begins. Another great cinematic trailer is the one for Dead Island. It's another standout cinematic trailer known for its unique storytelling approach, told in reverse. The trailer depicts a tragic story of a family caught in a zombie apocalypse. I actually remember this specific cinematic trailer because it was talked about a lot years after the Dead Island game even came out. The emotional visuals paired with the haunting score captivated audience and sparked widespread discussion, raising awareness for the game even before its release. Now, these are just the pros of cinematic trailers, and for the few examples I gave for the games that got cinematic trailers, these were ones that were developed by big-time game studios with a very well-respected reputation for making great games. But like I mentioned before at the beginning of the video, times have changed. 9 out of 10 times if a cinematic trailer for a video game is being made, then the studio behind it is a pretty big studio with quite a bag in their pocket. Now, it's not always the case, but this is just most of the time. And like I said before, the game being made by these big time studios would produce most of the time top of the line games. So while people are watching these cinematic trailers feeling all sorts of emotions, they expect to feel somewhat the same when playing the game, at least to some degree, right? Yeah, that's not happening at all. I think it's safe to say that the big time studios that once used to make amazing games and put out a cinematic trailers for these set games are not producing the top of the line games that they used to. And they damn well know that. So the best way to trick us viewers, us players, into buying the game, or rather just feeling something for it, is by putting a cool looking or somewhat cool looking cinematic trailer that's filled with emotion and cool fight scenes. Even though it's not gameplay footage, it still amps us up. And then you see the gameplay footage, or just play the game yourself and you see it's a big bag of poo. And the studio behind the game, instead of focusing or rather putting their money on the cinematic trailer, they should put it in the actual development of the game. Because how can you show this and come out with this and come out with this? Again, I know that it's no gameplay footage and cinematic trailers are designed to look better than the game, but I mean, come on man, they know their game is shit. Now, there are actually a very few cases where cinematic trailers actually match the gameplay footage in some way. The Last of Us 2 did it perfectly, not to mention Blizzard with the Overwatch lore videos for every character in their game. But then you got studios that will actually put more time and money into creating these cinematic trailers, but then when you look at what the game for said cinematic trailer is for, you feel like you were catfished, like Riot with League of Legends. Well, there goes my chance with working with Riot. I know every person that was ever introduced to League of Legends was not introduced by the actual gameplay footage, but was actually introduced by the dozens of cinematic trailers or these crazy looking music videos. I know I was. And for the longest time, I watched so many of these videos until finally, I decided I wanted to see what the actual game looks like. So imagine to my surprise when I saw this. Yeah, that's not for me. Look, if you're into these type of games, then good for you, but after I saw this, I wanted my money back. And the game is free. Now, I'm not trying to give shit to the creations of cinematic trailers for games. Like I said before, I love them, but I feel like if you're willing to spend thousands of dollars on revealing your game with one of these trailers, then the game better have the exact same or somewhat similar vibe as the cinematic trailer, or at the very least don't make a shit game.